Because like previously
Yeah.
I was reading it.
So CAM, key audit matters. So in order to just brush the knowledge, CAM refers to those significant matters, okay, in auditor's judgment, which has been selected from all the communications that was done to those charged with governance. Clear? So during the audit,
Okay.
there can be many things that the auditors come across, right? So all of these things, what auditors does is the auditor is going to communicate these things with those charged with governance. Clear? Okay.
Okay.
So from those communication, the auditor is going to select most important ones. So this is called as CAM. Understood?
Okay.
Okay. So for CAM, we have a definite format that is very usual and very like uniform to all the CAM questions. Clear?
Okay.
Okay. So the format is just a moment. So this is the contents of CAM. Okay. So in order to write a CAM answer, first you're going to specify what is CAM. Okay. So the CAM section of the auditor's report should include reference to audit risk relating to whatever the issue you are addressing in the question. That is mention issue. Clear? And the level of judgment required in making this assessment. Okay, so your first sentence opens with that. Okay, so if in the question it is about a provision, something like that, you're going to mention the entire scenario here. Clear? Understood?
Okay.
And the second sentence is you're going to explain why this issue was considered as an area of most significant importance. Okay, and therefore it was taken as CAM. Clear? And the third sentence would explain like it must also explain what and why was a CAM addressed by the auditor. Okay, and they are going to briefly explain what all would the auditor do in order to uh you know in order to gain sufficient appropriate evidence, and also any review that is being undertaken for the disclosures. Clear? So this is basically CAM.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question that we could do is this one, 40, question number 40 to 242, spinach. Clear? I'm just reading through.
Okay.
It is now 12th November. Just a moment. Let's see. Spinach. Okay. Okay. So for CAMP question, they would divide the entire answer into two categories, question into two categories. Okay. And out of that, one of them is the contents of the CAM, and the other is, oh God, the auditor's report. Understood? Okay. So in the auditor's report, as here mentioned, okay, let's see what they are actually looking towards. It is now 12th November 2005. Okay. During the audit of Spinach Company's inventory, the audit team identified 5 product lines which were very slow moving. Okay. So 5 products line are there and which was very slow moving, and concluded that the net realizable value of these goods was below cost. Okay. A significant write down of the inventory was required in order to comply with IAS 2 inventories. Okay. The audit partner has determined that the inventory is now appropriately valued and this issue should be communicated as a key audit matter. Clear? So it is all now corrected, but this becomes a key audit matter. Clear? Okay.
Okay.
So the requirement is as follows. Describe the factors which the audit engagement partner would have considered in determining that this issue is a CAM. Okay. And the second part of the question asks you, describe the content of the CAM section of the auditor's report for Spinach Company. Clear? So the answer is for 5 marks, right? So if you're going to mention 5 valid points, you're going to get 5 marks. Understood? That is how it works. Okay? Clear now?
Yes.
Okay? And when you're going to write CAM, you're going to follow all this auditors, you're going to follow the same words everywhere. Okay? Nothing would change. Clear? Okay. So in this case, I'm going to mention as Spinach Company. Is it Spinach Company? Is it listed? Is it listed? It would be here somewhere.
Yes. 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 It is this one.
Where is it? I can't see.
Yes. Third line.
Hmm?
Third line. Third line. Top third line.
Okay, listed company, right? So you're going to start with as Spinach Company is a listed company. Now, in case of CAM, if you have read the theoretical notes, you would have read like CAM is something that is very important to listed companies. Clear? Clear. So in order to take
Yes. Yes.
CAM, the company should be listed in order to show it in the auditor's report. Clear. So first of all, you're going to
Yes.
confirm that fact. Clear. So you're going to say, as Spinach Company is a listed company, a key audit matter paragraph will be required in the auditor's report. Clear?
Okay.
Okay. Understood, no? Now the second sentence
Yes.
is that how is this becoming a CAM? Okay. So CAM is basically those significant matters which the auditor, according to his discretion, selects from all the communications that he has made to the to those charged with governance. Clear? So you're going to write that in
Okay.
the second sentence. Understood? The engagement partner would have considered whether the matter was communicated to those charged with governance as key audit matters are selected from the matters communicated with those charged with governance. Clear? This is a bit confusing.
Okay.
I take a large volume of students, so often students get stuck here. Are you okay with this?
Like, do we have some simplified version of this?
No, no simplified version. You have to write this as it is, otherwise, you won't get any marks. See, don't let the sentence confuse you. It is just saying that if the auditor or if the engagement partner has considered something as a CAM, okay, so in order for him to do that, he's going to look whether these communications has been done to those charged with governance. Because for CAM, there is one and only condition, that is, it should be picked from the communications that has been done with charged with governance. Clear?
Okay.
Okay, so that is what they're mentioning here. It is considered whether the matter was communicated to those charged with governance. And why is that? Because Key audit matters are selected only from matters which was communicated to those charged with governance. Clear? It's a repetitive notion, right? That is, in the opening sentence, we are going to mention that if it is a listed company, key audit matter paragraph is required in the auditor's report. Clear? And the second one, they are saying that if the engagement partner has considered something as a CAM, then he must have looked into whether it is communicated with those charged with governance. And why? Because CAM can only be selected from the communications that has been done to those charged with governance. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
It's just repetitive in nature, just to confuse you, but the sentence is very simple. Understood now?
Yes,
Okay. Now the third one. Okay. So while reaching onto this conclusion, the audit partner would have assessed, okay, what level of risk is there, what is the risk when during the time that these were valued, okay, and he's going to determine whether the uh, estimates are reliable on his professional judgment. Clear? So that is the third sentence. So how do you frame it? The audit partner would have also assessed the level of risk during the valuation of this one. You're going to mention the product during the valuation of 5 product lines which were very slow moving, which was whose net value was below cost, uh, which has led to a significant write down of inventory as per IS2 inventories. Okay, and then you're going to continue and determination of the size of reliability as the estimates based on his professional judgment. Clear?
ma'am.
Now the fourth sentence. So the engagement partner has used his professional judgment regarding the valuation of 5 product lines, which was very slow moving, right? Okay. And he has concluded that it is of most significant importance, okay, during the audit of Spinach Company financial statements for the year ended 31st March 2005. Understood? So this is like a template. Okay, this is like a template, and you are just going to replace it with the company name, the main issue. Clear? So let's see the answer at the back side. See, as Spinach Company is a key company is listed, a CAM section will be required in the auditor's report. The audit partner would have considered whether the matter was communicated to those charged with governance, as CAM is selected from matters communicated to those charged with governance. Clear? The audit manager would
Yes,
also have considered the level of risk in relation to valuation of inventory of slow moving items and of slow moving items which were below the net realizable value. Okay. And the level of judgment involved. The audit partner would have also considered whether, in his professional judgment, the matters regarding the valuation were of most significant importance in Spinach Company's FS for the year ended 31st July 2005. Clear?
yes.
Understood, no?
Okay.
Now let's see
Yes,
the contents of the CAM. So when we say the contents of the CAM, you're going to use the same templates. That is, CAM section of auditor's report should actually see if there is a CAM section, it should refer which one it is referring to, right? Okay.
okay.
So there would be a reference to the audit risk that would arise from the issue. Okay. So what would be the audit risk about? See, include a reference
And
of the audit risk in relation to the valuation of inventory. Clear? Okay. And then you are going to continue with the template again and level of judgment required in making this assessment. Okay. Then full stop and continue. It should explain why, instead of writing this issue, why if you want, you can mention the issue, or else just skip it and write it as this issue. Clear? Okay.
okay.
So it should also explain why this issue has been considered as an area of significant importance and therefore determined as CAM. Okay. It must also explain how the matter was addressed in the audit, and auditor briefly explains the audit procedures adopted, and also explain any review was undertaken for related disclosures, if any. Clear? Okay.
Okay.
Let's see the other one. Next one. Okay. I'm just going to use the template and debrief. The audit engagement partner has determined that the issue relating to the provision and receivable arising from the sale of defective goods should be communicated as a key audit matter. Okay. So you have two contents. One, what would be considered in the, what would be there in the auditor's report if it was considered as KAM, right? And also the contents, right? So you're going to start with, first of all, you're going to see whether it is a listed company. Is it a listed company? Yes, here. Danube company is a listed. Clear? So what do
Yes.
you do? You're going to start with, as the company is listed, KAM is required in the auditor's report, right? And then you're going to go ahead and say that the engagement partner would have considered whether the matter was communicated to those charged with governance, as key audit matters are selected from communications with those charged with governance. Clear? Now, the third sentence would be the audit partner probably must have assessed all the level of risk during the valuation of which one? Provision and receivable
Receivables.
arising out of the sale of defective goods. Clear? And determination of the size of reliability as the estimates based on his professional judgment. Clear? Now, the last sentence is the audit engagement partner on his professional judgment would also have considered whether the the provision and receivable arising from the sale of defective goods was of most significant importance in the audit of Danube Company's FS for the year ended the year end. Clear? That is 31st March 2005. Understood?
Mm.
Clear? And in the content section,
Yes.
you're going to again simply change the things. The KAM section of the auditor's report should include a reference to the audit risk relating to the provision and receivable arising from the sale of defective goods, okay, and the level of judgment required in making this assessment. It should explain why this issue has been considered as an area of more significant importance in the audit and therefore determined as CAM. It must also explain how the matter was addressed in the audit, and the auditor briefly explain the audit procedures adopted and also explain why, explain any review was undertaken for related disclosures, if any. Clear? So whatever key audit matters are, it should be also noted that it is very important thing, right? So probably there would be disclosures in the FS as well. So thus the mention of disclosures in the third point. Understood?
Okay.
Clear now?
Got it.
Let's see another one. I'll give you 10 minutes. You have to frame on your own, okay, using this template.
Okay, ma'am.
Mm-mm. Just a moment. Okay. So we're discussing auditor's report format. So for that, in the question, there would be a paragraph mentioning what the issue is. Okay, so something might not be, uh, taken into the FS according to the standards. Clear? Basically, it is that. Okay. Either it would be related with standards or it would be related with legal regulation. Clear?
Okay.
Either of the two can come. So you're going to basically copy paste as you do in auditor's risk. The second thing that you do is you're going to calculate whether or not this amount is material. And how do you know if it is material? In the question, in the first paragraph, they would mention the profit. Clear? And if you have read my notes carefully, in the evidence chapter, was it? I don't remember. Or in the fourth chapter, fifth chapter. I think in the risk chapter. So in the risk chapter, there is a range that I've mentioned, right? 5%, 0.5 percentage, right? 0.5 percentage of sales, 5 percentage of PBT, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in the question, if you look into it, they have mentioned the PBT here. See? So you're going to
Yes.
calculate 5 percentage of that PBT. And then you're going to compare it with the amount that is being given in the question. So that is the second in the auditor's report. Clear? That is materiality
Okay.
calculation, and you're going to conclude whether or not it is material. Clear?
Got it.
Okay. And the third paragraph would mention whether the company is ready to amend that. Clear? Okay. So in accordance with that, you're going to mention whether or not the auditor's report should be modified. Clear? Okay. And then you're going to mention what would happen in the FS, that is whether or not it is pervasive or not pervasive, okay, or how the opinion would be issued based on that matter. Clear? Remember, if it is material and pervasive, it would be an adverse report, right? If it is material but not pervasive, a qualified for report, right? If you
Yes.
can't find the evidence, then what would it be? Tell me.
Disclaimer report.
Disclaimer of opinion. Understood? Okay. So that is
Yes.
what you mention here. And then you're going to say that after all this, a basis for paragraph would also be there. Okay. So if it is if the auditor's report is unmodified, then a basis for the opinion paragraph would be there. If it is modified, and it is a qualified report, then a basis for qualified paragraph would be there. Clear? You're just going to mention which type of opinion you're giving. Clear? Okay. And it is going to be subsequent to the opinion paragraph. So whatever opinion you're giving, just below that, you're going to give a basis for opinion paragraph. Clear? Okay. And this is going to explain the material misstatement in relation to the issue that has been mentioned in the question and its effects that would have on FS. Clear? Okay.
Okay.
The opinion paragraph would have the name of the opinion and the statement. If it is a qualified opinion, what would be it? The FS is true and fair except for this statement. Clear?
Okay.
Understood, no? So we'll look into an
Yes.
auditor's report. Just a moment. Okay. So this is the most easy 5 marks you could get from auditing exam. Okay. So I'm going to read this. During the audit of specific companies, provision for legal claims, okay, the audit team gathered audit evidence showing that the provision should be amounted to how much? 0.8 million. Okay. The finance director has suggested that no adjustment is made in 2005 FS due to the belief that 0.5 million is a reasonable estimate and the difference of 0.3 is not material. Clear? Okay. So in the first sentence, you're going to copy paste the entire scenario as it is. Clear? If you want, you can copy paste as it is or you can make some changes. Understood?
Okay.
Close the door. Okay. So that is our first sentence. Now, you can't start like this. You have to have a heading. Clear? You're going to
Okay.
mention auditor's report. Clear?
Okay.
Okay. So this is purely copy paste. Okay. I have just, instead of is not material, I have just polished the word as immaterial. That's all. Clear? Otherwise, it is just a copy paste. Now you want to return to the first part of the question. And they have given you 45.2 million. Okay. They've also given you
Yes.
profit before tax. So you can choose your threshold. Okay. So I'm going to take PBT as a threshold here. Clear? Okay. So there is a difference of how much? 0.3 million, right? So there is a 0.3 million difference, right? So I'm going to see
Yeah.
how much 0.3 million is there in PBT. Okay, how much of represents, how does this 0.3 million represent as that of PBT? If it is above 5%, then that is material. If it is below 5%, then it is immaterial. Understood? Okay,
Okay.
clear now? So let's see.
Yes.
So I'm going to take 0.3 million divided by 4.1. Clear? Into 100. So how many percentage it is? 7.3 percentage. So tell me, is it material?
Yes.
Yes, it is material. So that is your second sentence. So you get 2 marks for this. If you have already, sorry, if you have already written this much, you get 2 marks. Clear now? Okay. So the 0.3 represents 7.3 percentage of PBT, and hence this is considered as a material matter. Clear?
Okay.
Okay. So what happens now? You're going to discuss the scenarios that relates to this particular topic. Okay. So you have told the finance director to change it, right? Okay. So if he has no intention of changing, then that means the FS is wrong. FS is misstated, right? Because this is a material misstatement, right? Okay.
Right.
So your audit
Yes.
report should be modified because there is a material misstatement. Okay. Understood, no?
Yes.
Now you're going to mention why is that a material misstatement? Because the provision in the FS would be understated, right? Okay. And we have already
Okay.
established that particular error is actually a misstatement. Clear?
Okay.
But
Yes.
would it change the entire FS? Would it make a net asset to a net liability stage or a profit to loss
Mhm.
stage? No, right?
No.
Okay. Because if point 0.3 adjusted, does it make a loss? No. If point 0.3 adjusted, would it make the FS a net liability? No, there is no mention of such sort of things, right? So this is material but not pervasive. Understood? Okay. So the auditor, what would he do? He is going to give a qualified opinion. Clear, Samriddhi?
Yes.
Understood, no?
Yes.
That is as simple as that. If you know how a report works, this answer is very simple. Clear? Okay, so if the finance director refuses to increase the provision, the auditor's report should be modified due to material misstatement. The provision in the FS is understated and the error is material but not pervasive. Hence, the auditor would issue what opinion? Qualified opinion. Clear now? Okay. And just under the qualified opinion, there would be a basis for qualified opinion paragraph. Clear?
Okay.
Okay, just a moment. Oh, okay, so continuing, if there is a qualified opinion paragraph, there would be a basis for qualified opinion underneath. Clear? And this basis for opinion paragraph is going to explain why is this a misstatement and how is it understating provision, okay, and what effect it would have on the FS. Clear, no? Okay, and just a moment, Sampati. Okay, so if it is a qualified opinion, what sentence would it have? Tell me.
Except for.
Except for. So that is the next sentence. The opinion paragraph would be a qualified except for statement, right? And it would say,
This finance director refuses to increase. This one is a technical. We have to just like learn this paragraph.
we're just
This
going to
one.
assume that he is not going to change. Clear. Because he has
Okay.
already said
Okay.
that. He has already said that. He's said that he believes point 0.5 is reasonable, right? So it is not correct
So
according
ma'am,
to
in
us.
every question it will remain same. Like in every question we have to just like this only.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But the scenario would change and so will your answer. In this case,
Okay.
in this case, it is about provision. In another case, it could be about like in the CAM, we have got a question for inventory, right? So in another case, it would be an inventory valuation thing. Clear? We'll
Okay.
look into it.
Okay. Got it.
We'll do questions. Okay. So I'm going to
Okay.
write
Okay.
the next part of the question. That is this one. Clear?
Okay. No problem. Okay.
Okay, so what happened? Okay. A basis for qualified opinion paragraph would be provided subsequent to opinion paragraph, which would explain the material misstatement in relation to the understatement of provision for legal claims and its effect on FS. The opinion paragraph would be qualified except for the failure to amend the provision to 0.8 million. The FS gives a true and fair view, right? So except for the amount of 0.8 million, the FS is true and fair. That means only that is the problem. Clear, no? Okay. So what is the intention? The intention is simple. If someone is going to read the audit opinion, they should be able to understand that just this one is the problem. Rest of the FS is true and fair. Understood? Clear? So in the audit report itself, there is another type of question. Okay. So another type of question would be like, they would be asking you what would be an adequate disclosure and what would be an inadequate disclosure. Understood? Clear?
Okay.
Okay. So in that case, how do you approach is the next format. Clear?
Okay.
We'll take a question. Jasmine. We're going to be on the safer side, connecting all the questions that could possibly come. Okay. So it is a trend that sometimes report is asking for just there are 3 sets of papers actually, 2 sets of odd papers, right, in each session. So if one gets just this part, the other person would get this one. That is adequate and inadequate disclosure. Clear?
Okay.
Understood? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's see. So this question is Jasmine report. Okay. So during the final audit, the finance director has informed the audit team that Jasmine Company's bankers will not make a decision on the renewal of the overdraft facility until the auditor's report is signed, right? The audit engagement partner is satisfied that use of going concern basis is appropriate. Okay. The directors have agreed to include some brief going concern disclosures in the draft financial statements, and the audit team will have to assess the adequacy of these disclosures. Clear? So they're asking you discuss the issue and describe the impact on auditor's report if it is adequate and if it is inadequate. Clear? Okay.
Yes.
So this adequate disclosure and inadequate disclosure always would be connected with going concern problem. Clear, no? Okay.
Okay.
So you're going to copy paste the as usual in the auditor's report question. You're going to copy paste. Okay. You're going to copy paste the issue. Okay. That is regarding the scenario with the bank. Clear? Okay. Then when there is a going concern problem, there is a material uncertainty, right? Going concern is always a material uncertainty. Clear? Okay. So it is going to give a doubt whether or not, if in the absence of this particular overdraft facility, because in the earlier stages, they have said that the overdraft is something that is being increasingly relied upon, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So anything would happen. A company may have significant problems in in living as a going concern, right? Okay. So this would actually impact the company's ability to be a going concern. Understood? Okay.
Mm.
And what impact would it have on auditor's report? It would depend on whether or not the company has adequately disclosed this issue in the FS. Understood? Clear now?
Okay.
So whatever I
Yes.
have discussed now, I'm going to copy paste and this is going to be same everywhere. Understood? Clear?
Okay.
Okay. The copy paste might change, but this content is going to be same. Clear?
Yeah.
Understood? No? Now,
Got
what
it.
would be an adequate disclosure? If the disclosures are said to be adequate, okay, then the auditor's report is going to have a separate column for matters relating to going concern. It would be a paragraph. Understood? Okay. And that paragraph is called as material uncertainty to going concern. MUGC. Clear? Understood?
Mm.
No? This is something very
Yes.
important because it is going to be a continued knowledge in your AAA exam. Understood? Okay. So you're going to divide your answer into three parts. The first part is an introductory part. The second part would be about the adequate disclosure. Okay. And the third part would be about inadequate disclosure. Clear? Understood? So in the
Got it.
adequate disclosure part, you're going to mention how this is going to impact the auditor's report. Clear? Okay. So if
Okay.
I'm repeating, if the company has in the FS disclosed the going concern concept clearly, very correctly, okay, then in your auditor's report, you're going to take a paragraph called as material uncertainty relating to going concern. Clear?
Okay.
Understood, no? Okay. And
Got it.
in this section, the auditor is going to say that his opinion has not been modified, right? Okay. And in this paragraph, he would indicate that there is a going concern uncertainty. Okay. And he has cross reference to this to all the disclosure notes that the company provided in the FS, right? Okay.
Mm.
And it would also be provided in the subsequent paragraph, subsequent to the opinion. Okay, and basis for opinion paragraph. So in the auditor's report, there would be opinion paragraph, basis for opinion paragraph, and then after that, there would be material uncertainty relating to going concern paragraph. Understood? Okay. So once again, if the disclosures are adequate in the auditor's report, there would be a separate section called material uncertainty relating to going concern. Understood? Okay. And in that paragraph, the auditor would mention that his opinion has not been modified. Clear? But he would indicate the company has such an issue. Okay. And the auditor has cross referenced this to the disclosures that was provided by the management. Understood? Then you're going to mention
Okay.
where this is placed. So this is placed over opinion and subsequent to basis for opinion paragraphs. Clear? No? That is
Okay.
below opinion, basis for opinion paragraph, we would place this particular paragraph. Understood? So that is the adequate
Okay.
disclosure part. Understood?
Okay.
So what would happen if there is inadequate disclosure? So if the disclosures are inadequate, then auditor's report should be modified. Clear? Because there is a material uncertainty, but the company has not mentioned it, right? So due to the fact that there is no adequate disclosure in the FS, we would modify our auditor's report. We as in the auditors. Clear?
Okay.
Why? Why? Because if adequate disclosures are not done, then that means the FS is misstated. FS is not just misstated by amounts, it is misstated by disclosures as well. Clear? But but the problem is this wouldn't actually not receiving uh just a moment. Okay. So not getting an ability to get for overdraft doesn't mean that a company is going to shut down, right? We are going to find some means to solve this issue, right? So it is material,
Right.
but it is not pervasive. Understood? So what do we do? In the auditor's report, we are going to mention a qualified opinion. Clear? Okay. Then the
Okay.
usual thing. If it is a qualified opinion, there would also be a basis for a qualified opinion, right? Subsequent to qualified opinion. Subsequent means just below the qualified opinion paragraph. And this particular paragraph is going to explain all the material uncertainty relating to this going concern. Okay. And also why the disclosures were not appropriate, right? And the opinion paragraph would be like, except for the failure to disclose or failure for adequate disclosure regarding the uncertainty to going concern, the FS is true and fair. Understood? Clear now? This might
Yes, ma'am.
this might seem a lot, but this is the easiest version that you have, easiest portion that you have in your double A. Clear? Okay.
Okay.
So if the disclosures are not given correctly, then that means there is a material misstatement, right? Due to inadequate disclosure. So if the adequate disclosure are not provided, then FS becomes misstated, but it is not pervasive. Then you're going to give a qualified opinion. If there is a qualified opinion, there would be a basis for qualified opinion paragraph, right? Okay. And this is going to explain the material uncertainty and regarding the failure to disclose adequately the matters relating to going concern, right? And in the last sentence, you're going to mention, you're going to say an except for paragraph, except for statement in the paragraph, which indicates that there is inadequate disclosure regarding uncertainty to going concern, and FS gives a true and fair view. Understood?
Okay. So, ma'am, what's the like hierarchy in the audit report? Like, it is first basis for opinion paragraph, then it is subsequent opinion paragraph. Like,
See, auditor's report is actually AC off ആക്കിയേ വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് നിങ്ങൾക്കെല്ലാം ഞാൻ. See, this is a typical example of auditor's report. See here. Here it is a normal opinion here. If it is a qualified opinion, the heading would be qualified opinion. Understood? And here it would be basis for qualified opinion paragraph.
okay.
Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
This is a typical auditor's report. It's not like this, but yeah. Clear?
Okay.
Okay, so with that, auditor's report is over. There is also a two very small section of questions that I want you to be familiar with. One is of corporate governance deficiency and the other is internal audit deficiency. Clear? Hello?
Can we share this file, like Word file of the format?
Yes?
Can we share this Word file of the format for
Mine?
the
Yeah, yeah.
going concern?
I'll share the entire one. Okay?
Oh,
Entire
okay.
documents I'll share. All right. I'll just share it. Okay. You'll get the entire document. Just go through.
Okay.
Okay, I've sent you. Okay, we'll conclude the class today. Two more classes and we'll be done. 2 to 3 classes. Okay.
Okay. Ma'am, like, can you keep it like after, like, maybe tomorrow?